making things again, Daddy?
This is a 10-inch sycamore bowl blank. It's kiln dried. I've put it on a faceplate. I'm putting it on the lathe. Starting to true up the blank just to get it to round so I can run it a bit faster. Using my bowl gouge, doing a push cut along the outside edge. And here I'm just starting to shape, taking that corner off and starting to round it. Doing push cuts, getting nice clean cuts, very sharp bowl gouge. This is a 3/8 Robert Sorby bowl gouge, it's brilliant. Just giving it more and more shape, gradually shaping it, taking bit by bit off. I've put a glove on to do this because these shavings are very hot when they come off, and it does burn your hand if you're not careful. Nice shavings coming off here. It's very sharp gouge. Here I've switched to a bit of shear scraping just to refine the shape, really, get that nice smooth curve. Just dragging that round using the lower flute of the bowl gouge. With a closed face, just the upper flute is just clear of the wood, just rolling that round. Just so it's nice and smooth, getting rid of ridges. Now I'm contouring the bottom of the bowl just to make sure it's going to sit properly. Just doing a push cut across the bottom here, right to centre. Nice clean cut. Just checking it using the flat edge of the bowl gouge. Make sure it's not going to be a rocker. You want it dead flat or slightly concave, the bottom. Just doing some finishing cuts really around the outside of the bowl here. I'm now creating a double recess or mortise in the bottom of the bowl. The smaller one in the middle is to take one of my new leather logo discs. I'm just using a very sharp parting tool to do that. It's a Robert Sorby parting tool. I'm making a smaller one in the middle for the leather disc, and then I'm making a larger one to the outside to accept my 89mm chuck jaws. They'll be used in the expansion mode. Just neatening up the centre one here, getting it to the correct depth. I'm doing it this way with a double recess rather than cutting a further recess for the leather disc, because it would be set too deep then and there'd be a danger of perforating the bottom of the bowl when hollowing. So I'm trying to keep this as shallow as possible where I'm going to put my logo. I'm now creating the outer recess or mortise for the chuck jaws. I've got to make it wide enough so that the chuck jaws can go in, and I'm also making it wide enough so I can get one of my skew chisels in there to smooth the bottom and create an undercut. Here I'm just rolling the bowl gouge around that inner ridge just to form a nice contour and finish it nicely. And I'm just testing the fit of the leather logo disc, and that's good. I want it just sunk. I'm sanding to 240 using the Simon Hope rotary sanding system, and I then, after doing that, apply 2 coats of sanding sealer just to seal it prior to cutting the recess for the inlay. You can see here the sanding sealer's on, and I've done a bit of pyrography on the bottom using a parting tool to create a 3mm deep recess. It's about 3mm by 24mm, this recess, which is going to fit the acrylic pieces that I've got left over from my previous project. I should have changed the camera angle for this because you can't really see what I'm doing, but I'm doing some depth orientation grooves first, and these I join together to form a nice even depth recess. I've called this the leftovers bowl because I'm using the leftover acrylic tiles I had from my last big project, and here I've set them around the rim in the recess using some epoxy resin. Here's a picture of some of the tiles with the white backing and the black Milliput which I used to set them in. And in this next shot you can see this is after I've squidged the black Milliput all round the tiles. Did it slightly differently this time. Instead of packing each tile in individually with the Milliput, I cemented them first and then pushed the Milliput in around them, and it was actually quite a bit easier. We're back on the lathe now, ready for the reveal. I'm going to cut away the Milliput. I'll start by doing a couple of push cuts with a bowl gouge just to remove the Milliput, which is standing proud of the acrylic. This is the exciting bit really, because you start seeing it all appear. I'm now doing a little bit of shear scraping using the lower flute of the bowl gouge. Just gradually removing the lumpy surface so I've got a nice smooth surface to scrape on. Working it backwards and forwards, and you can see the colour of the acrylic gradually appearing as I remove the Milliput. Lots and lots of scraping. Takes a long time gradually removing this. I've cut out quite a bit and I keep stopping and checking so I don't want to overcut. As you can see, the blue and the green are slightly thinner acrylic sheets, so they've still got some Milliput left on those. I'm just doing it bit by bit, and there's a bit of final scraping. I'm using a skew as a negative rake scraper. Still a tiny bit of Milliput, which I'm sanding away with a 120 sanding pad with a Simon Hope sanding system. Rotary systems are good for this because they don't put grooves in the acrylic. And then finishing to 400 grit using the rotary sanding system again. After this I apply 2 coats of sanding sealer and then apply the Yorkshire Grit. Put loads of that on, quite generous with that. Work it for quite a long time. Gets finer and finer, much finer finish in the end. Gives a lovely finish. And I'm just buffing it all away once it's done its job. Lovely finish, but I'm just putting a little bit of burnishing cream on the actual acrylic just to give the acrylic a final polish. Put this on with the lathe stationary and turn the lathe on and just buff it away, and it really brings the acrylic up like glass. I've turned the bowl round now, put it back on the lathe using the chuck with the jaws in expansion mode set into the recess I created, using my 3/8 bowl gouge, just starting to do some hollowing. This was quite a long process because it's quite a big bowl. Doing a few pull cuts here just to remove some of the bulk from inside the bowl. Just dragging it from centre to the outside. Just like I say, removing as much bulk. Then back to doing some push cuts with the bowl gouge, just standard hollowing cuts, rolling it round, pivoting on the tool rest. Just taking small bites, doing bit by bit. And I check the depth occasionally as well, which I haven't shown, just to make sure I'm not about to ruin all my hard work by going through the bottom of the bowl. Just here I've cut out quite a bit because it went on a while. Just final contourings really of the inside of the bowl. Getting the profile of the sides correct. Running across the bottom. Checking the depth occasionally as well, again, like I say. You don't want to go through the bottom. It's a lot of work to get to this stage, and I'd hate to ruin it. Just running across. And then a bit of scraping, a bit of shear scraping, angling the scraper up, sharp scraper, gentle cuts. Then using a negative rake scraper here. This is a Robert Sorby hardwood scraper. Just doing some final finishing, really, getting some nice shavings coming off here. It's very sharp. Keep putting a new burr on this. It gives a lovely finish, just getting rid of any torn out grain that might be there. Making sure I've got the contour nice, removing any tool marks. And nice finish on that, so ready for power sanding. And I start sanding at 120. And I think I went up to 400. 2 coats of sanding sealer, which I denib with an abrasive pad. And then back to the Yorkshire Grit. I love this bit because this is when it really comes alive. And as I said earlier, put loads on. And work it with the lathe spinning. I think it was spinning about 700 when I was doing this. And you just work the Yorkshire Grit and it gets finer and finer and finer, and it really pops. Then the grain really appears, and you get a beautiful finish. Lovely, lovely finish. Once you've worked the Yorkshire Grit, then you buff it all away with clean cloths, and it'll leave really lovely, lovely finish. Hello everyone, back again with another bowl. Just come in from the workshop and it's blooming hot, really hot day. Not good to be wearing a respirator and a visor, but here it is, sycamore with acrylic around the outside that I've got up to a very, very high polish, and it's transparent acrylic backed with white. I've called it the leftovers bowl because as I said earlier, this is using the leftover acrylic tiles from the previous project. This has come out very nicely. I've got a good finish on this. By decorating the outside, I've kept the lovely grain pattern on the inside. I don't know if you can see that, but it's yeah, a bit too much reflection, but yeah, it's come out very well. I've just got to glue in my leather logo, actually. That's the next job. But thanks again to all my subscribers. It's absolutely fantastic, and thanks to Carl Jacobson for giving me a shout out the other day. I really appreciate that when he did his Milliput project. Bit of Milliput used in this, the black Milliput. There we are. I better go and glue my logo disc in. Back again, there it is, the logo, leather logo in the bottom. That's the bowl finished. Yeah, pleased with that. Please like, share and subscribe, and I've got loads more videos coming. I've got lots of projects planned. I've even got a couple of non-wood turning projects coming up in the future. I've got one on knife making, and I've got another one coming up which will be leather work, so I'll make a sheath for the knife that I make. Anyway, I look forward to seeing you soon, and take care.
More videos coming soon.